I want to talk about Vertx, which is a relatively new technology that has come to the JVM. And for all practical purposes, we can kind of think of it as Node.js for the JVM. Now, most folks have heard of Node, and it's asynchronous programming model that uses non-blocking I/O to give us very nice scalability. Well, why do we have Node in the first place? The idea was to deal with a couple of things, the first of which is the C10K problem. What's the C10K problem? How do we deal with 10,000 concurrent connections to our web application without the server falling down and exploding? There's very different types of architectural ideas that you need to deal with to handle that kind of load. But we have to handle that kind of load now because instead of folks having to physically be sitting at their computer to hit our web applications, we have thousands of people walking around with computers in their pocket and constantly dealing with our apps like Facebook and others. So the types of concurrent load that we have to deal with are very different now than what we dealt with in the past. The other problem that Node helps us solve is the idea of server push. How do we get data into the browser without constantly having to poll to see if something new is available? And so when Reindahl built Node, he was talking about and thinking about these types of problems. Well, as it turns out, Node is very good, but it has some shortcomings. Node compels us to use JavaScript for programming. JavaScript has a lot of problems, and it doesn't give us very good tools for dealing with and managing large code bases. Node.js is also inherently single-threaded, so it doesn't scale vertically very well on machines. It also doesn't help us much with inter-process communication. So if I manage to spin up multiple node processes, how do I get those to communicate with one another? I don't have very good tools for that, and I have to do a lot of low-level glue programming to get that done. And finally, Node.js requires all code to run on an event loop. What this means is that if we do any blocking work, our entire application blocks and no requests can actually be served. So Vertx comes in and says, I want to give you all of the goodness of Node, but then also deal with these shortcomings. So where Node forces us to use JavaScript, Vertx is polyglot. Vertx allows us to use Java, Groovy, Ruby, Python, JavaScript as well, and also CoffeeScript. And theoretically, any language that runs on the JVM will also work with Vertx. So work is underway to bring Scala and Clojure also to Vertx. Where Node.js is inherently single-threaded because Vertx lives on the JVM being inherently multi-threaded and being a good platform for doing that type of programming, our applications can now scale vertically with much less effort. Vertx also features, to deal with the communication problem, a couple of solutions, one being a distributed event bus that gives us a very simple message-based programming model to send data back and forth between different units of our application, as well as a shared memory model to allow us to share immutable data across multiple units of our app. And then finally, where Node.js requires all the code to run on an event loop, Vertx features a background worker pool that allows us to take naturally blocking work like intensive data processing or the use of legacy blocking APIs and do that work off of the event loop. So it's a much more pragmatic solution to the overall workloads that we're going to deal with. And so my hope is that you will leave this talk excited and prepared to jump into developing your next application with Vertx.